Cool. Thank you very much for the introduction. Just very shortly about myself and maybe also why I'm here. So my name's Jan. I'm a partner here in the Berlin office of Holtzbrinck Ventures. We were talking about us before. We are not part of the media group. We're probably Germany's largest VC with $1 billion under management, and we do early stage investments. And before that, I was COO at Vuga, a mobile games developer here in Berlin, where I helped grow the company from 30 to about 300 people, including lots of hiring, firing, culture, etc. So really happy to be here today. And culture is an extremely important topic when building a startup. It's one of those things which I believe often lingers on the back of your mind, knowing you need to really do something about this topic. Sometimes gets pushed to the back when operational things happen. But what we'll be talking about today is, together with Tamaz's experience, is how to build this culture, how to make sure in hiring you build this culture, how to keep it, and maybe even how to measure it. But I'm very happy to introduce Tamaz, founder and CEO of Raisin, 6 years old startup now, marketplace for investments, saving products, has managed to collect more than 10 billion euros in deposits by over 160,000 customers. I think the first question is, people often talk about culture and high-performing culture, but what do you think is a high-performing culture? How would you define it, just as a basic?
So maybe two thoughts. First is extremely important. Why? Because everything else is a commodity. So access to capital is quite easy, especially in those times. Also, you can replicate a lot of stuff, so the idea doesn't matter. What really matters is people and how you perform against your competitor, and the only driver of it is the quality of the team you get and whether they're motivated or not. So that really makes a huge difference, and you always notice it when it's not there. So if everything is going great, then you kind of feel good. You of course think that it's all yourself or the founders or the management, they are really rocking the ship. If it goes wrong, then you notice that actually we didn't take care of something. And actually it happened also to us once or twice. The things you notice is attrition is going up, people are leaving. People are leaving early the office. People ask themselves, what are actually they doing? Is it really contributing to the performance? People are starting like, do we have the vision of the company? Those are the things which we started then to measure, so we'll come to that question later. But actually, you start to feel it when it's maybe not too late, but when it's not there. So when the performance culture is there, everyone is motivated, it's really scales, and everyone is happy. Then you don't think it's about the culture, but when it's not, then it's really about the culture mostly.
Now, when you started Raisin, what did you do? I mean, there's these stories about from Silicon Valley. You always have to be a bit careful, but the story is Airbnb waited 6 months to hire the first person to make sure the culture fit. Did you think about it the same way?
Actually, how we hired the first person, that was also funny. So the first people you hire, typically you hire from your personal network. So people have to believe you. And our CTO, we knew from one of our first investors. We asked actually that guy to join us as an interim CTO. He said no, but I know someone who is probably good. So he didn't believe in us, I think, strongly in-house. Or actually in the first 5 was one of best childhood friends of Michael, of my co-founder. Then one of our clients from Deutsche Bank has joined. A couple of McKinsey's joined in the first 2 years. So it's like this is the talent pool you are fishing in.
And as you grew, do you think your culture changed? And did you actively change it, or has it evolved naturally, or are you kind of the same?
So this phase where we had quite a high attrition, people were unhappy about some basic stuff. So like with the first 12, 15 people, 30 people, you do this daily huddle, everyone is in there, and then you give some daily targets so it works. With kind of like almost 100, the communication didn't work at the company. So people were complaining about basic stuff. Actually, I cannot really assess whether my contribution is meaningful for the company or not. So we went into depth really into analysis of what's happening and started to do some basic stuff. So we introduced, for example, a format which died off now, but we had a town hall, a completely open town hall. So people are allowed to ask any question. Stupid question, smart question, like how much money do we have on the account, like what's the strategy on this, How do we see that competitor? Are they better than us? So everything is allowed. The other format which we introduced, which was also quite helpful, was quarterly team targets, which have to be connected to the complete vision of the company. So teams have to develop what they're working on in the next quarter and to have to present it in front of the whole group, which actually put a lot of pressure on teams to think, are they really working on meaningful stuff or not?
It's a topic I was always interested in. Did you ever write down your values and write them on the wall?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. Yeah. We have company where they're hanging on the walls. The first letters make up Raisin, so it's very well thought through. We have a company vision, which every employee knows. We have an onboarding program for the new people. We now developed leadership standards, which are still not rolled out. So we do a lot around this fluffy stuff. We have a strong VP for culture, which is team and culture actually, so our chief HR lady, and she is pressing us really hard to think about this stuff and also to take time. So for example, for the development of the leadership startups, the whole management took 1 day off, so completely no phone allowed. So we sat there, and it was probably the most productive day I had in the last quarter, definitely.
But do you think it can be delegated to an HR person, and is it one of you in the senior management, or?
I think the biggest breakdown happens if a founder tells it and then the management doesn't behave like that. And that's something which we are still working on, because the management group is growing, and then you have people who've been from day one there, and day one behavior was different than what we need today. It's very, very hard to work.
Cool. Now maybe talking about sustaining a high performance culture, especially as you grow. How do you deal with the sprint versus marathon aspect of a startup, and then also kind of keeping this high performance up as the company grows?
We do once a year like a retreat for everyone from day one. So it's we do once a quarter parties. We do once a month. We do Friday drinks. We see that as a part of people contributing. So, and they can shape it. So, for example, our person who was responsible for going out, they rotate every 2 or 3 months, and it's really, if people want to do it, they can shape it and they can do the stuff. So that's one of the things how we glue a bit the company together and have the fun component of it. I do not really believe in sprints, because if you are doing too much sprints, then your focus is like constantly changing, and the stuff you are doing is probably not long-term enough and not building enough value into the company. So that after the first year, the normal working hours were until 10 or 11. I think right now, so I left at 6:30. I think there were probably in total 10 people in the office. And I think after 7:30, it's no one, mostly.
I mean, before at Vuga, I started my own company, did that for 8 years, and then sold it in the end. But that really frustrated me.
Yeah, like everyone goes, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the first year or two, everyone's kind of fighting, and then in a way you feel people are still fighting, but they're fighting until 6.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I don't know if it's a feeling you felt.
No, I have the same feeling. So I'm doing a lot of travel, so going out to partners and doing B2B sales. And January was the first month since very long when I was couple of days in the office, and actually half of those days I was closing the office down, so that was a bit of a feeling of, am I the only one who has a long to-do list, or also?
Cool. Now, I think interesting part about culture is also how do you transplant culture across offices, across geographies, when setting up new areas. What's your experience been? We
just bought a bank in Frankfurt, so I just had on Wednesday a town hall there. So we bought a company in the UK. We just launched its product. Actually, half of the management team has rotated, so it's very young in that sense. Before that, everything was in Berlin. I think what we decided to is both locations, because they are kind of far away, they have to be autonomous. So there is clear like a CEO of that company or subsidiary, or the other thing is they are all invited and involved in the stuff we're doing. And we try to do a lot of communication. So like, of course, joint Slack channels, them coming to us going to them. I think we need to see how it works out, because it's really hard to work over distance and sustain or like be homogeneous culture across
in different cultures?
I think one thing which I found very helpful is we switched actually very quickly to a common KPI set and how we measure the performance and how we see it. We show also the performance numbers across all employees in all offices, so that a bit gives like the same language, because people are talking about optimizing the same stuff that we've done actually very early.
Okay. Now, talking about measurement, do you measure culture?
Yeah, we measure a lot. So we have two types of HR. So we have 360, which we're doing since last year. We have a pulse survey, which is very short term, just 5 questions. And we have a larger employee satisfaction survey, where we measure loyalty, we measure single criteria, like from salary to office atmosphere to development opportunities. So we measure a lot. I think it gives you at least a bit of a feeling in terms of dynamics, which direction it's going, and what are the factors where we're lagging behind. So that's pretty accurate. So we took quite a lot. So McKinsey being a great company, of course, I forgot to say that before. We took a lot from McKinsey. So one of the things is extreme feedback culture and performance review culture. So we do twice a year feedbacks, once a year formalized performance review. We encourage feedback between the employees. 360 towards the managers goes into their appraisal. Also, a bit the performance review documentation. It's similar to what McKinsey has developed, of course, developed completely independently, but it came to the same result. Yeah, so I think measurement helps, because otherwise you are completely blind, so you don't understand what's really happening. So
I'd assume for Raisin, obviously, let's assume you have the right culture from the start, but assuming you're in another company and you kind of inherit a culture, or there's something which bugs you maybe about the culture in your own company, how do you think you can change it?
I think you can. So I think like what we have done once or twice is, once you really understand what you want to change, to make change visible. So like one of the main theses we had back then was actually we want to attract people who do not come here for money. The main thing for them should be that they actually, when they leave the company 3 years later, they've had a really great learning experience. Because that's actually what McKinsey is great about. So people are proud of being at McKinsey because they've noticed 3 years or 5 years later, I've learned a lot. Because hiring is less of a challenge. You can tell a very good sales story. So we tell one of the best funded startups, smart people, great investors. So you can do a lot of mis-selling or upselling in those conversations, but to retain the people, because every of the good ones gets headhunter calls, is out on the market, looks around, and for them the rewarding experience is being somewhere where they learn so much that after 3 years they're going out and they're proud. And then we started like, what is the stuff which other people are not doing? Some very concrete examples we've done. Also the formats died over time, but we thought, we're a small startup, but we know a lot of people. We kind of have cool investors, we know other founders, so let's do a founder breakfast. So every second Tuesday we bring a really cool guy, some of them from London, from Zurich and so on, who tells about his startup experience and gives he's like really only 10 or 20 people and starts discussing. Then I introduced a really cool talent program where people do stuff which they would normally not do. So for example, the founder of Wealthfront came, the talent group had a dinner with him together and like could also do some like unusual or like above what people would expect from us or from the like early stage company. That helps a lot to shape the thinking, what you actually want to change, want to make visible. And then a lot of stuff came out of it. So giving budgets to the teams to define their own learning agenda. And learning became part of the performance review. So what do you want really, which skill do you want to develop in the next 6 months? So, and then you have a like very normal structured program and do stuff and make it visible.
So assuming you were here at this lecture before you started, so probably now 6-7 years ago, what would you have liked to tell yourself then? What would be the 3 takeaways?
I think one is the phases. So the stuff you are doing and you are expected to do as a C-level or founder or CEO in a company are completely different day one, completely different 3 years later, and completely different 6 years later. So you yourself have to change a lot all the time and take feedback seriously and a bit think about the health of the health and the team. So because that's the only leverage on the company I have right now is to put the right people on the right task. I mean, the rest of it I cannot influence anymore.
Vision.
And vision, yeah, but vision is there, so vision is very good. The second thing is crystallized a bit, so we always make the same mistake. We hire people who are either very similar to us or whom we feel comfortable of guiding and being their boss. And that's actually the complete mishire because they are less valuable and inferior to us. So, it takes real guts to hire someone who is better than you. Like, I'm probably the least sensitive on this, but there are people like in the company whom I would say they need to step up their hiring quality. And also the company needs to step up the hiring quality in total. Also, like as a German company and looking at the P&L and cash flow and so on, we've of course been punching below our next level. We've been punching at our level, so and it is not enough when you're preparing for the next level. So that's I think the hiring quality and leveling it up and hiring above anything. So above your current employees, above your current spending culture, really being more aggressive on the hiring side. The third thing which we didn't think about at the beginning is why do people come and stay? That thinking which we've done then was extremely useful to think like what type of people do we want to have, how do we attract them, what is the experience they need to have at the company. And it sounds a bit voodoo, but I think it helps you to really think about how do you want your employees to feel, what do you want them to learn, how do you want them to be guided. So that's the employee experience, so what you are delivering them. That's another thing.
Cool. Well, Tamaz, thank you very much again for your time. Please